It's a beauty day out here. Wonderful weather, huge big fangs on this weather. Anyway, today we're gonna be carving a mouth, all right? If you haven't carved a mouth before, this is a great starting point, I think. I'm pretty sure. And if you'd like to learn to carve more mouths, realistic ones that is, then check out the online school that I started a few years ago in the link below, all right? This is a great resource, one of the largest resources, one of the best resources. I can't do Trump. Anyway, the point is, enjoy this project. It's an 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch piece of basswood, 3 3/4 inches long with a 1.5 inch blade. Oh, there we go, got through it. All right, let's do it. Okay, so I've got a little marking under here, and for those of you wondering how I decided where this little marking goes, the base of the chin, I've got that from the brow ridge to the bottom of the nose, and I've just doubled that. Okay, so that roughly gives me the width of this lower part of the face. So before I get into that, I'm going to establish the bottom of the chin, and to do that, I'm going to make a stop cut and a relief cut. Straight in, and then relief to that point. Okay, so I've come in a little less than 1/2 inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch. Okay, so it's at this stage. I want to start thinking about the placement of the mouth. Now, the mouth lives right at the the third mark of the face. So I'm going to draw a line here and here, dividing this area between the bottom of the nose and the bottom of the chin. Okay, so we're dividing this area up into thirds, right? Between the bottom of the nose, bottom of the chin. And we've got this third line. I'm gonna lower these just a little bit. Now, the first line that we've drawn here, separating the first and second third, this is our mouth line. This is the separation between the upper and lower lip, or the opening of the mouth. So, to start, I'm gonna make a groove there. Now, in addition to that, this other dividing line between the second and third, this is the turn of the chin, right? This is the low point of the chin, and you'll see what I mean in just a moment. So the first thing I want to do is make a V cut on both of these lines. So I'm going to start with this one. Okay, like so. I'll show you the depth there. And then I'm going to make a V cut on this line. Little bits at a time, because I don't want to flake out wood like I just did there. You see that? Look at this. Not a big deal. The chin's coming back anyway, so we got lucky. Taking that back. And this is why it's important to take small chunks, because something more could have broken off that we needed. All right, see that? So we've got 2 V cuts, V channels. One at the opening of the mouth and one at the chin to the lower lip transition. Okay, and actually that worked out in our favor, the fact that broke off, because we did want to cut that chin down. So we were going to push that corner back like so. And so this is where we're at. Beautiful. Okay, so the next thing I want to start thinking about is the width. How far over do the lips travel? And the general rule is, the consensus is that the, the center of the eye down, if we drew a line, that tends to be where the lips end, the mouth ends. And this area is called the oral commissure. This doesn't matter that much. The important thing to note here is that if we draw this line into here, there's a little indentation or a dimple. So let's draw that on both sides. Okay. Now, most people draw a straight line across from one oral commissure to the other, and typically not the case. Typically there's a little bit of a curve. It could be downward, slightly downward, with a little dip in the middle, and we'll represent that in a little bit. I'm going to extend now this line, this V cut, over to these little circles that I've made. All right, so I'm turning the tool on its side, or the piece of wood on its side, and I'm making a V cut alongside that line, slightly downward, as I mentioned before, not totally straight across. All right, there's that. Now there's different ways you can approach cutting the oral commissure, this little indentation at the outside of the lips, but the important thing to note here is that it exists, right? And this is where the upper and the lower lip turn into the face. So you can use a gouge for this. I did bring a gouge because it's a nice option to have. If you have an 1/8 inch gouge, this is a veiner, which means it's a U-shaped tool. You can see that profile there. Or for those of you who are metric, probably about a 4mm or so gouge or veiner would be great. You can use that to make a little indentation in the corner here, so I'll do that. Okay, so show you some options here, right in that indentation, okay? I'll do the same thing with the knife, just to show you what you can do with the knife, since this is supposedly a nice knife-only video. So I'm going to turn the blade and the wood, anchoring that point right into that center and create that little indentation, just like so. All right, so pretty similar result, not a huge difference. You can be crafty with your knife. If you have a gouge, much easier to use the gouge, but giving you options here, okay? I'll reestablish that V-cut at the outside edges, just like so. Okay, now what I want to do is start to form a little bit the mound of the mouth. And thankfully, because we're carving in the corner here, we've already got a lot of the mound defined. But what I want to do is I want to start to round over the shapes of the mouth a little bit, the mound. So I'm looking at this profile up top here, this upper lip, right? All right, so I'm going to take this corner off the top here, like so. All right, and this one here. Little stop cut up at the nose. So typically the upper lip is a little bit thinner than the lower lip. So just thinning it out a little bit more. And I'll make a stop cut along the bottom of the nose and the nasolabial fold. If you want to know how to carve this stuff, the nasolabial fold, there's another YouTube video here. And obviously, as I mentioned, if you really want to learn how to do this realistically, I have an online school, and I'll talk more about that at the end here. And there's a little intro there as well at the beginning of this, obviously. But that said, the lips, we want to make sure this dips down right here. Okay, we want to create a little drop. So what I'll do is I'll take my knife and I'm going to turn the knife and I'm going to carve a little bit out of the lower lip, a little scoop right on the center line. Little scoop. And then a little relief cut, just at a slightly varied angle from there. Okay, and that gives us a little U shape. You can see that. Okay, and then I'm going to come in and create a little bit of an upside down U. So this one's kind of an upward curve. Very subtle here, right? Going straight into the lips, and then I'll come up with a slight angle and clean that out. Just trying to separate the lips a little bit more and create the line of the lips, right? Very good. Okay, I'll extend the line over here, this bottom line. This is the lower lip to the chin line that we made, separating the two. I'm going to do the same thing we did earlier and extend that line over. So I'm turning it about at a 45 and then cutting a little V groove there. Boom, boom. Okay, and then I'm going to take a look from the side. It's actually looking pretty good. We're in pretty good shape here. Okay, so I might just round over that lower lip a little bit more, reduce the lower lip. You know, it really depends on the individual when you talk about rules, the ones I'm about to say, but oftentimes you'll see that the lower lip recedes a little bit from the upper lip, right? So keep that in mind when you're carving. All right, so we're getting pretty close to the final steps here. I want to take this oral commissure and this upper lip here and take a little bit out of the upper lip, blending it into the oral commissure, just like that. Okay, beautiful. Just like that. A little bit out of that corner. Establishing that. And really just tucking that lip, because the oral commissure is actually a the termination point. I call it the termination point of the upper and the lower lip. It's where the upper and the lower lip converge, right? So I'm going to clean that up a little bit. Looks a little messy. Okay. And you know, you can come in with a little sandpaper. I know that's against the rules for a lot of whittlers, but I do occasionally use sandpaper at the end of a carving. Why not? All right, so the final thing here is the fill trim. Now this is a pretty challenging step, maybe one of the most challenging steps of all, but right at the center, right above the upper lip, between the nose and the upper lip, is this little indentation called the fill trim. Okay, a lot of people call it the snot trough. Ew, don't call it the snot trough. I'm gonna make a little incision with a scoop cut, right? A scoop cut's where I'm turning the tool slowly as I'm moving it through the wood. Again, I'll show you another way of doing this if you're not as advanced with your knife skills yet, but I'm coming through and I'm doing a little curve. And once I've done that on both sides, make a stop cut up here, at the top of the nose. That chip should fall out. And that gives us our fill trim, right? Now we're in good shape there with that fill trim. And I'll show you the opposite, or another way you can do it rather. Use the veiner right up straight through, boom, okay? Another way you can hit that fill trim up top. But you know, that's the general rule of establishing the mouth, is that the fill trim is in the center, right between the upper lip and the nose. And it doesn't have to be that deep. On some people it's nice and wide, some people it's shallow and tiny. And all of these rules that we talk about are subject to variation per person. This just gives you a great bouncing point to be able to look at other people and say, okay, let's see, did their lips come out to the edge of the face? You know, how does that work? So I'm going to erase my lines. And that's a wrap, guys. Thanks for watching. This has been fun. I hope that it was simple enough for you, you understood. And again, if you want a real in-depth version of carving the mouth, you want to learn all the forms and how to execute those in a very realistic way with gouges and chisels as well, mostly gouges and V-tools. Check out the link below. I've got a link to the school, and that's a great resource, one of the largest resources online for carving portraits in wood, so check that out. Without further ado, I'm going to go do some more carving. Thanks for watching, guys. Take your vitamins.